Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about The Mandalorian Season 1, Episode 4. It's called Chapter 4, Sanctuary. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. And this episode was Seven Samurai.
Yeah, you saw it coming after like the first scene. I was like, pretty sure I know where this is going. I don't know if I expected it to get quite as blatant as it did. But hey, gonna steal do it from the best, right?
It hurt me a little bit on Twitter. I saw someone refer to it as, oh, they're doing Magnificent Seven, and I
Look,
I died a little bit inside.
Magnificent Seven isn't even the best remake of Seven Samurai. I'm sorry, it's not. That honor belongs to A Bug's Life. Fight me.
You should still watch Seven Samurai rather than A Bug's Life.
I mean, yeah, you should. But if you're going to watch a remake, A Bug's Life is better than Magnificent Seven.
So, yeah, basically, Mandalorian goes to this planet for refuge. Quiet little planet. Try to get stay out of the radar of everyone else, because Baby Yoda is obviously a target. And arrives, kind of runs into Gina Carano's character, who's called Kara, which is actually really confusing because her last name is Carano, but her character's name is Kara. But runs into her, and she's an ex-shock trooper, I think she said. And she is also kind of hiding out there. At first, it feels like they might not be able to get along, and he thinks he's going to leave. But when the villagers of this village that we see in the opening scene that is attacked by these alien bandits of some sort, they come and beg for help. Very Seven Samurai, actually offering to pay him to come and protect them. He doesn't really want to do it until he realizes that there's a place to live there that's quiet, and then he takes the money they're going to pay him and goes and pays Kara that and says, "Hey, job." And they got into the small village to get acquainted, do a bit of detective work. Leads to kind of a funny cut here because they kind of cut back to the village and they're just like, "Yeah, you can't stay anymore. You have to run. Just go, just leave," because there's a giant ATST. All right, is that what it was?
I'm impressed you remembered that acronym.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
Yes. So they've got one of those, meaning that we can't really just fight it on our own. Like, we're good, but we're not that good. So you're going to have to run. But ultimately, the villagers refuse, and it's actually Mandalorian who gets the idea to be like, "Hey, what if we train them to sort of help, and we can actually form a plan and take it down?" So that's the gist of the episode. Obviously, we'll get to the nuts and bolts, but I thought it was another solid episode, probably not quite as good as last week's. I think the only thing this suffers from, because it does tell a complete story, which was something the first 3 episodes were all lacking.
This is unequivocally an episode.
Yes. The problem with it, though, is I do feel its length hurts it. I think it needed at least another 10 minutes to really sell everything that goes on here. The montage where they're training the villagers especially, and it's not that I wanted more of the training per se, I just felt it came to it. I feel like I had to get to know them a little bit so that when they said, "No, we'll train, we'll help," like, it meant more. We get this montage of them learning to, fight with sticks and fire blasters, and it just kind of felt like I barely know who any. I recognize like one face at this point, and I'm thinking of every other movie that's done this. Whether it be Seven Samurai, or not that there's a bit of training in that, but I'm thinking of Army of Darkness. Even I'm thinking of anything that's ever done this. And by the time we get to the point where they want to train and fight alongside the outside hero, we always know enough of them that it means something. That we see the struggling character actually, So I don't know.
I agree with all that. I think it's slightly unfair in the sense that all the other things that we're comparing it to are 90+ minute movies, or 3 hours in the case of the original. So it's a little bit unfair in that regard. But I agree. An extra 10 minutes probably would have gone a long way to help.
That's why I don't think it's unfair at all. I'm not saying give me 2 hours. I'm saying give me an extra 10 minutes.
No, I just mean there is an expectation of all these things that, okay, that maybe 10 minutes would have fixed, but maybe we'd still be going, maybe it needs more. I don't know.
No, I don't think so, because I'm not comparing it to those things to make this critique. I'm making this critique just based on how it feels in the moment itself. I just don't feel like we actually get to know them enough to actually care about their plight.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest feeling of this episode is that I don't really give a shit about the village that much.
Yeah, that's fair.
They try their damnedest to make me care. You know, we meet the one sort of widow character who's got the kid. Omira's her name, and she's, you know, being nice to Mandalorian. They're even teasing a possible romance. You know, not so much that I think they're going to go down that path, but it's, you know, even Cara at one point says, "Hey, you could settle down here and be with the widow and you know, live your life." He's like, "Nah, this isn't for me." But of course, he does contemplate leaving the kid here. Of course, he eventually has to change his mind because there's assassins coming in and know his location, so he can't stay here. He's still in danger. You know,
they're still tracking Baby Yoda, not him.
Yeah, so he was about to make an extreme blunder because he thought he was, I've done my job, he's safe now, he's going to leave and leave the kid behind. And then right before he's about to leave, an assassin shows up. I was like, well, it's a good job I didn't piss off then.
Yep.
So the episode obviously ends with them on their way. Obviously, what I have skipped over is the actual fight and because the action is really good. I think the best thing about the episode, aside the typical, you know, Mandalorian Baby Yoda stuff. There's a lot of Baby Yoda stuff at the start that everyone's going to be saying is really cute, but he's drinking the soup.
Fair, it is. I'm just amazed at the puppetry on this thing. It's kind of fantastic because, you know, it's like an actual thing there, not just CG, which would have been the easy route.
But there is some CG involved, though. I'm sure his face is still CG.
I don't know. There's a lot of puppetry in the face.
There's definitely moments I noticed. There's definitely some enhancements going on.
It might be enhanced at points, but I know, like, if you look at interviews, some of the cast, they're talking about how it was on set with the thing. I think there's like 2 or 3 puppeteers controlling it.
Yeah, there's definitely moments of enhancement because, especially with the eyes, I keep noticing the eyes. You know, they don't look necessarily there, all the time. But you can definitely tell the arms and the legs and all that are there, though. The way it kind of sits in things and touches things, there's definitely a lot of tactile stuff going on.
I think the movement was quite impressive in this, because obviously up till this, it's always just been kind of floating, or we haven't really seen it move. It's crawled a little bit maybe, but you know, in this one, it's just kind of walking there alongside him. It looks pretty good.
So yeah, there's all that stuff at the start, but the best thing about this episode is definitely how it treats the I know the name of it. I'm trying to just.
You can just call it the Walker.
I don't want to call it that either. I'm trying to think of a more general term. It's not quite a mech.
No, it's not, is it? It's kind of a cross between a tank and a mech.
I'm trying to phrase it in the context of it being more universal. Because the point I want to make here is that they kind of treat it like a horror monster, where it comes out of the trees and it's got the big red lights of the eyes, and it.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a face with the way they've lit up the viewport to look like eyes.
Yeah, that stuff's pretty good. And then the actual battle's pretty good too. Them running back to base, and then everyone sort of being ready with their sort of their barricades and their firing lines and whatnot. All that stuff is great. This was the first one where I felt the length of it though, because I feel like the first 3 had a very slow pace, methodical pace, and that wasn't a complaint. It's just I thought that worked for the show. It felt like this one, by contrast, wanted to feel like that still, but actually still had to speed everything up to get everything into the very tight 40-minute runtime.
No, I agree. I don't think it needs much more, but a little bit. Like things like the Widow clearly has a past, right? You know, she's really good at shooting, and she's like, yeah, I've done this before, but we don't really get any of that.
And I'm sure it'll come up at some point. I mean, we'll probably come back here, but we spent enough time introducing her that I feel like we're going to see her at least, once more in the season.
Yeah, possibly.
Especially the Cara. I don't think this is the last we see of her either.
Oh, absolutely not of her. No.
No, it's Gina Carano. They cast her for a reason. But yeah, that's what I like. This was the first one where I felt like, yeah, it's funny because I said last time that the first 3 episodes you could have cut some stuff out of episode 2 and made it an hour-long episode. I think I'd add like 10 to 20 minutes to this one and make this a full hour without combining any other episodes. I would just make this a full hour-long episode.
No, I agree. It's funny how this feels like the most complete package of an episode, right? It's funny because obviously we talked about the first 3 feeling like kind of like one big thing, and we were under the impression that was like, right, that was Act 1, and this is just kind of going to be on to Act 2, and it was probably going to feel like that throughout because it's only 8 episodes, and this kind of threw a spanner in that because it's not. This definitely feels like, okay, no, this is a TV show now.
I don't know if I'd go that far. It still kind of feels like just Act 2 to me, but it's got a more complete story in and of itself.
I mean, it's Act 2 of the season, but rather than just being a broken up movie, this feels like an episode of a TV show.
More like one. I wouldn't say it outright does yet. That still feels like a section of a movie to me, where like this is part of the journey, this is part of the trip.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I don't think it feels, and I don't think it ever will feel like a TV show. I don't know, there's something about it. It just is. It's framed differently. It is framed in a different way in the story.
That's fair.
So I wouldn't agree with that, but I would add more time to it. I feel this is unlike the past few episodes. I felt like this one was like, no, you're rushing through some of this stuff too much. Actually, let me feel like I care about these people. Let me soak in the what it's doing. So I guess I mean my overall complaint about the show is still kind of the same. It's just it's kind of morphed a little bit, but ultimately the base complaint is it doesn't really know how to structure itself as a TV show yet. And it did it a different way this time. It made the mistake in a different way, but like the base complaint is still kind of the same thing.
I agree with your complaint about the pacing in general. I think the saying though it doesn't feel like a TV show. I think we just kind of got into that a minute ago, but whereas the first day I agree with you, it doesn't know how to feel like a TV show. This one, to me, does, and it feels like for whatever reason they were given like a network style restriction.
Hold on a second. I've moved on from that though, and I'm saying that it's struggling to actually function as a TV show. And this is not the same complaint to say it doesn't feel like one. I'm saying that in not using its time properly or not being the correct length for the story it's telling, it's essentially making a different mistake, but it leads back to the same base problem, that it's not knowing how to function as a TV show.
No, but that's where I disagree. I think this does function as a TV show. However, it's a TV. It's an episode on network TV where this is your strict running time, and you have to kind of rush through beats if that is the case to do your story that week. This feels like that to me, where for whatever reason they had a strict time that they were given, and they were like, right, okay.
That's the weird thing though. I don't feel that at all. I don't feel there is a strict time limit. This feels purely by choice, which makes it baffling that there's such a weird pacing issue. Like, and it's not like I'm saying add more action scenes that are going to cost a lot of money. I'm saying just give me some more character stuff in and around the camp. Give me more bonding, like stuff that's just characters in not in a room because they're in like this little village, but just in these barns and huts talking to each other. And
what's interesting is I think in terms of for the Mandalorian himself, I think he has quite a lot of character moments in this episode as compared to any other.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, don't get me wrong, I think the side characters suffer in this episode a lot in that regard.
Well,
but
yeah,
I think for him, he has more than any other individual episode.
Yeah, one of the things that fall out from us, apart from not really caring about the village as much as I feel like we should during the big defense for it, is at the end of the episode. Like, I get the feeling there's supposed to be this camaraderie that's built up between Mandalorian and Cara, and they kind of hug each other almost at the end or whatever as they're saying goodbye, and it's kind of like, oh, we'll meet again one day or whatever. And I never really felt they earned that level of like trust or that level of I don't know, of a bond. Like it felt like they have this weird fight at the start, right, where they're fighting outside the cantina, and. Yep. And then, he goes to her, because at first he thinks he's going to have to leave, but then he gets this offer, he goes to her with the money, and I guess I was expecting more of an actual arc where they kind of earn each other's trust or whatever, and it never really happened. They were just kind of on the same page after that. There wasn't really much of an actual story there. So at the end of the episode, when they're it feels like there's been this bond created, it kind of felt like, I don't know, I feel like you've skipped a beat here and you've just went to this, and I don't really feel like it's been earned.
I think like there are moments that work to enhance this in the episode for me. I don't think I agree to a point where it's not entirely there. There are moments like when she asks for his gun, his fancy one. He hands it over without hesitation, and that was
cattle
like, okay.
prod that also happens to fire things projectile wise.
Yeah, the disintegrating ones.
Yeah, it's a cattle prod.
That happens to
fire things, but it's a cattle prod.
It is, yeah. And then her doing the extreme maneuver to try and force the walker into the trap. There are these beats where I am feeling like, okay, no, there is this respect, like, quite a strong respect between them that they've got going here.
I guess what I'm saying is it feels like I watched the Crib Notes version. I feel like there's like an extended cut somewhere that actually fleshes all this stuff out and gives it an arc. And I feel like I watched the bit that just skips to the beats where they want them to be at the end, and I'm like, I feel like I missed parts of the story. And don't get me wrong, like I feel like it sounds like I'm shitting on this episode a lot. I actually think it's an enjoyable enough watch. I think the copying Seven Samurai is never really going to be a terrible idea. And it's something because there was rumors out, a few years ago of them doing a Seven Samurai movie with Jedi, and that was easily the most interesting concept I'd heard for a Star Wars movie in a long time. Because it was very standalone and just sort of doing its own idea.
I'm pretty sure they did a bunch of episodes on Clone Wars. They did an arc. It was like 3 or 4 episodes where they did Seven Samurai.
I think if they actually lent more into Jedi being samurai, I wouldn't be as disinterested in them that much. But they don't really. I mean, it's all this Force bollocks and.
Often, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on what the story is, but in the main movies, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So. Yeah, so I mean, admittedly, I'm kind of like raising myself more complaints as I'm talking about it, but there is something weirdly. It almost feels like this season's a proof of concept. So everything feels like oddly like a sort of long short film. I know that sounds like a really weird sentence, but there's like a weird like here we're going to prove we can do this, but the actual meat won't come until season 2 because they don't have the footing yet to like be confident and to actually just tell a big story.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that when we talked about it in the first episode and that opening sequence. That was absolutely.
Oh yeah, that was definitely the strongest I felt that. But I just even just looking at it as a whole now, the way I'm talking about how it's kind of skipping kind of beats for me, and it feels like there's parts of the story that feel truncated or missing or whatever. It does almost feel like they're doing it to save money, but this is Disney. It shouldn't.
It's interesting because there are parts in this episode that feel truncated, but the overall narrative arc between Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, I think, has been perfectly paced and hasn't had any of those problems. I haven't felt like we've missed any beats.
Oh no, that's fair. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with their story arc together. But his story arc with everyone else in this episode feels truncated and feels like he's skipping bits, and could use some more time. At least that's how I felt when I was watching it. So when I got to the end, it felt like okay, that was enjoyable enough, but it felt there was a little bit of a hollow feeling to it because the weight just maybe wasn't quite there.
I think for me, while I agree with kind of most of these complaints,
you're a Star Wars mark, so you're going to forgive all of it.
No. What I was going to say is, because I actually felt like I got out of the Mandalorian himself with, from his side of things with the Widow and the stuff about his helmet and him contemplating staying there. She goes to lift the helmet off, and he's like, "No, it's not the time for that." There are moments like that, and and his stuff with Baby Yoda that are really working for me. That kind of outshine the problems with the side characters because the core character is getting so much stronger, and there is so much of that in this episode. It kind of outshines the problem for me.
Yeah, but I've got a sneaking suspicion that a lot of these people he meets along his way, assuming we're in a more of an episodic planet to planet thing for each episode now, is that I feel like a lot of the allies he makes are going to sort of come back to help him at the end, in some sort of way. That'd be my prediction for where this is going in some capacity. So we can't skimp on them. We can't skimp on those relationships.
No, I agree. And I think if we get to that point at the end, we're not having any more of them in between. The characters in this episode come back at the end, and we haven't got any more of them between this and then I will absolutely feel that at that point when they show up and they're supposed to be the cavalry helping out. I will feel the problem then. And as it is right now, while yes, it's irritating, in this episode it didn't drag it down too much for me because of the other stuff. If they do show up and do that at the end, then yeah, we'll revisit this conversation. I'll be more annoyed, or probably just disappointed, to be honest. Not annoyed, but
yeah. So that was bizarre. Yeah, so we had him with his helmet off to eat. Started answering the big questions. How does he eat? Well, he doesn't in private, but his helmet off. Although to be honest, he was sort of looking at people as if there was like a window there, and I was like, can't anyone just look at it and see what he looks like right now?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's one-way glass.
It's a little like shoddily built hut on a village.
Maybe all the glass windows. I just use that. I don't know. I'm making up answers here. I don't have one for you.
Also, later on, when they're in the fight with the ATSD, I got the impression when it didn't step in the trap the first time that it was suspicious that there might be a trap because of the way it sort of put its foot out. And I say it as if there's no one up there controlling it, but you know what I mean? Like, if the foot went out and then sort of, no, I'm not going to do that, and came back. But then as the fight went on, it almost felt like, they just happened to stop. It was a weird beat for me for the foot to go out and sort of come back.
I felt like it stopped because it was the edge of the water where it stopped, right? You know, it stopped on the bank. And I thought it felt like, no, this is far enough. We're not going to go into that because maybe there's reasons for that, on their part. And then it didn't necessarily forget. I don't think it got goaded into coming closer. When she went up and went right up against it, and I was like, no, come and get me.
Yeah, no, but even at the end, it didn't step in though. It just the ground gave way at the edge and it fell in. So,
well, no, but it did step closer. That was the point. It stepped closer to try and get her, and as it did, it crumbled the edge. So it was trying not to go in, but.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is for their trap to work, they were planning on it going into the water. So clearly they suspect, okay, it's a shallow enough pool, they're expecting it to go in.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is kind of a weird sort of flaw in the plan then, if it was never going to want to actually walk in that area.
I mean, I guess they had no reason to suspect that it wouldn't, but... they don't know because it doesn't usually advance out of.
Don't get me wrong. I get the
forest,
choices creatively in terms of creating tension and the scene itself. It's just in a logic sense from the characters, it makes them feel a little bit. I mean, not stupid, but like, I feel like with the Mandalorian and Kara, like sort of directing what they're doing, I feel like they would be smart enough to sort of call if it would go into the water or not.
No, like I said, is generally seen when it's attacked, it's never come out of the forest. It's always behind the tree line shooting at them. This is the closest it came anyway, so they thought maybe it will come closer. I don't
know. But hey, so no, I mean for all the things I've sort of nitpicked at, I think it's an enjoyable enough episode. The action's very good. The core stuff with Mandalorian and Yoda or Baby Yoda is pretty solid. But I'd have shaved 20 minutes off episode 2 and given it to this happily.
Hey, I'm not disagreeing with that. Episode 2 is as much as I enjoy what is there in terms of the overall season, easily the weakest point.
Oh, easily. Episode 2 is by far the weakest episode.
Yeah, and I enjoy what is there. Like, I think it's fun enough, but it is easily the weakest episode.
This may be the second best episode, even with the flaws that I've brought up. But
I think it is. I think 3 ended as it kind of was this conclusion to the first 3 episodes that kind of gives it this extra points, and it has all that going for it. I think this edges out 1 by the nature of it being. For all the flaws we talk about, how it kind of feels like it skips beats, it does feel like a complete story that it's offering, rather than just here's a cliffhanger at the end, like the first one did.
Just try and give the stories the right amount of time, because when you compare this to episode 4, we had a story there that had way too much time, and then we have this one that doesn't have enough. So that's hopefully something that they. I mean, it's probably too much to hope that it'll happen in this season, but maybe in season 2 they'll.
Yeah, I mean,
the shit out.
King's 2 worked out, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it is written by Jon Favreau, who, as far as I know, has never done a TV show. I think he's only worked on movies.
To my knowledge, sure, yeah. So, did he write all of it?
He's written all of it. He's written every episode so far.
Oh, is he? Okay. Ted, I noticed this was the Bryce Dallas Howard directed one.
It was, yes.
She did a pretty good job in terms of direction, especially when we talk about the action sequences and stuff.
Yeah, doing TV is kind of a thankless role as a director because, it was solid, but part of me also goes, yeah, but the style was set up in the last few episodes, so I don't really look at this and go, oh, there's her touches, there's her little, flourishes of her as a director. And because I've never seen anything she's directed before, I have no idea what she might have added.
I don't think she's done that much direction. She's done, a couple of things, I think, but not a huge amount.
Yeah, she's been getting lessons from her dad, probably. Or maybe her Uncle Clint. I'd love to ask her what it's like, Uncle Clint coming around for Christmas dinner.
Yeah, I bet you would.
And does he bring ice cream?
Yeah. Do you know what? This is the first time we've had a family connection in the directors for Star Wars.
You say that as if other franchises have tons of family connections.
No, but I'm just saying now that we've got, so it's going to be so much ongoing stuff between the TV shows, movies. They're going to keep coming out. It's only a matter of time till it happens more, I guess. But yeah, that's the first one that's happened.
Yeah, I can't think of another franchise off the top of my head that has any family connections in its directors.
There'll be some somewhere.
There probably is some somewhere, but I can't think of any as of yet. Not of course, not including like duos, like the Russos who direct together. That doesn't count.
Sure, yeah.
They that's their thing. They do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there you go. That's episode 4 of The Mandalorian. Let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all the usual stuff. Get us on the Twitters at @mail_fuzz for channel updates. Ding the bell on YouTube so you make sure you get the notifications. If you want to support everything we do, you can do that a couple of ways. You can rate the audio podcast on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars. More people find us that way. You can support us financially over at patreon.com/mailedfuzztv, and you can do that for as little as $1 per month, and every dollar matters. You get some bonus stuff, bonus features. Higher tiers, you get voting rights and other sorts of things and bits and bobs. So go and have a look and see if you're interested. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?